Does anyone have any thread?
No sé qué está diciendo.
Oh, you're selling Nintendos?
I want to start this video off by saying I love Close Enough. I thought it delivered, I thought it was really funny, I loved the characters, but it was still just a little bit rough around the edges. Look, hear me out. After 3 long years waiting for its arrival, Close Enough finally blessed screens across the globe through HBO Max in North America earlier this summer, and later Netflix International in the fall, bringing back the classic atmosphere and comedic stylings that could only be found in a project helmed by the likes of J.G. Quintel. And this was a signature J.G. Quintel show, complete with a main character who's voiced by him, and this time pretty much just is him. While season 2 has been confirmed for months at this point, we likely won't see it until around 2021, as by this point, the service will ideally be on Roku, currently one of the biggest streaming devices. In fact, it's kind of mind-blowing that HBO Max still isn't on Roku. As somebody who watches a ton of HBO Max and watches things on my TV through Roku, it's just a slight little 21st century inconvenience that I hope that they fix. But that being said, HBO Max making the move to Roku lines up with the prediction that HBO Max is shaping up to be one of the biggest entertainment streaming services between its already planned releases and loads of content that was already slated for 2020 joining the service. Plus, it just makes sense that they would release more Close Enough when as many people as possible have access to HBO Max in North America, and a demand building up for it as more people watch the series worldwide. That being said, although Close Enough's future is very exciting, there's still plenty to talk about with season 1. The initial run of episodes that were 3 years in the making, especially as the finished episodes we see are only a fraction of what was produced behind the scenes. I don't know many shows that had this much content that ended up on the cutting room floor. And we're not trying to repeat ourselves explaining the long journey that was Close Enough's development. We already said a ton of information in our Close Enough versus regular show retrospective from a few months ago. But for a show that was at one point speculated to become lost media entirely, a decent bit of season 1 still remains lost media. At least if you ask us. To get you guys up to speed, if you are out of the loop, the Close Enough trailer from 2017 was more or less fake. That's right, the footage wasn't taken from existing episodes at the time, but instead the trailer itself was produced as a proof of concept to pitch the series based off of existing episode ideas and scenarios at the time. Still, a few of these scenes were worked into the episodes proper, so it was pretty gratifying to have at least some context to the insanity of everything that was in the 2017 trailer. But when the show did finally come out, that's when things got interesting. We were left mostly in the dark into how long Close Enough season 1 would be, or how long the episodes would be. Would it have 11-minute episodes like regular show, or would it be a full 22-minute experience? Considering it was an adult animated comedy in the modern day, and originally set up to be part of a TBS block, 22 minutes just sounded like the likely outcome. So imagine the surprise, albeit mild, when we saw it was 2 11-minute segments. Well, in a shocking twist, as it turns out, it was originally written as a 22-minute show. Then at the last second, like the very last second, they got a note to cut it down to 11 minutes. As J.G. Quintel revealed in a Reddit AMA, the original 22-minute runtime is true. We started out trying to make a 22-minute series, which I had never done before. At the end of making all the episodes, we got a pretty big note to try cutting them in half. I gave it a shot and actually liked the pacing much better. Those originals had a lot of great stuff, but I think it all played into part of the development of the series. To say at the end of making all the episodes is pretty shocking. As an animation, you're constantly working on multiple episodes at once, stacked on top of each other. It's just the production process. Even if the episodes were cut down in the midst of post-production, think about it, that's still tons of writing, storyboarding, character, prop and color design, voice recording, and so much more hard work that will likely never be seen, unless we get like a famed Close Enough complete series DVD set, which at this point is just a concept that's outdated entirely. Still, I know this show would have the best behind the scenes segment. But still, that's a ton of content that will just never be seen. That's eerie. And this strongly alludes to the reality that the episodes we see are only a literal half of what was produced. And honestly, you can kind of tell. Episodes have subplots that are introduced and kind of don't get resolved. Sometimes one character will appear notably different from one scene they're in to the next, and not in a stylistic way. Sometimes episodes will just move at a much faster pace than what you'd normally expect. None of it is to the point where it impacts the enjoyment of the show at all. And we can safely assume season 2 won't have any of these problems and instead offer natural 11-minute stories, but it still leaves us asking, okay, but what didn't we see? And that's that's what we're here to talk about today. Between context clues in the final version of the episode and select scenes from the trailer that didn't make it into the show, we're going to go through Close Enough Season 1, episode by episode, piecing together what exactly fell on the cutting room floor. So without further ado, let's try to crack this. So the first episode of the series, Quilty Pleasures, predominantly focuses on Josh and Emily's journey for fabric needed to complete Candace's project. And that's all fine and dandy. However, its subplot was clearly expanded upon in the original version of the episode, and probably for the better. Josh and Emily's roommates, the divorced duo Alex and Bridget, are tasked with babysitting Candace. On paper, this B-plot is a cool contrast from the A-plot. While Josh and Emily's adventure is driven by situation, the B-plot feels more driven by response. But unfortunately, we don't get to see this B-plot at all. Instead, we see Josh and Emily pulling up with an ambulance leaving, with Pearl explaining the chaos that ensued, including Alex getting stuck in a vent. Again, all off screen, we never get to see this stuff. And then they pull up to Candace's event where we see Alex and Bridget, who have definitely been through some shenanigans. Just look at Alex, he's all frazzled. But again, we just didn't see any of this. It almost works in a weird way, like it was so crazy, but we never saw it and we just heard about it. I get it works like that as a joke. But still, I can't help but feel like there was a B-plot here that was cut down, if not entirely. And I hope we can see that one day, or at least figure out what happened to them. Either way, this episode still works, but this whole B-plot cutting thing is something that feels very common throughout the entire first season, and even pops up in later episodes. The next episode, The Perfect House, is one of my favorite episodes of the season, but I still feel like there's an undeniable chunk missing. First of all, there is Alex's Garfield conspiracy, which, in our opinion, was meant to be a way bigger thing and maybe even a way bigger part of the show entirely. In fact, I refuse to believe that it wasn't. First of all, it's just so incredibly random, and I was pretty much convinced that this is just a really weird one-off joke, but then there's the footage from the original trailer, in which we see Alex standing next to a police car in a Garfield costume. This may be a stretch, and I will completely eat my words if it is, but maybe there was some bigger Garfield conspiracy plot that was meant to be continued with this one joke that would have led to Alex in the situation we saw in the trailer. It all just lines up, especially since there's other clips directly from the trailer put into the show. I feel like this was an idea that was just underdeveloped in the final execution. But unfortunately for Garfield's sake, we'll never know. Anyways, back to the episode itself. Emily's whole house hunting obsession is hilarious, and the strange turn into sitcom purgatory is something that's just entirely close enough. But what's up with the B-plot here? Again, there really just isn't one. I mean, we get a glimpse of Josh's family bike scheme, but it doesn't really last too long. The rest of the episode is really focusing on Emily until Josh comes to rescue her. But in all fairness, they do a great job of tying it back up together at the end, with all of them riding into the sunset on the bike that Josh wanted. The episode still works and incredibly well. It's one of my favorite of the season, but I feel like there was definitely some scenes that were missing here that had to do with Josh and this bike. It's just too weirdly specific, but maybe it's just me. Let us know in those comments down below what you guys think. Then there's the episode Logan Run, in which the four try to prove desperately that they still have youthful energy by going to this club, only to be proven time and time again that they're just getting older. They're not hip with the kids. And not gonna lie, this episode was pretty airtight. There wasn't really any chunks that felt like they were missing or weird plots that went nowhere. It was just a really good episode. Although personally, the references feel a little too 2017, but maybe that's just me.
To being lit. To being lit. Lit means cool.
The next episode, Room Parents, is also another airtight episode, with the plot being Josh seduced without him realizing, and Emily having to intervene. A really funny episode, and just shows another strength of having a young married couple at the center of a cartoon. I feel like most married couples in sitcoms, especially for adults, focuses on the conflict between the husband and wife, the classic Peter and Lois Griffin sort of deal. But Emily and Josh are an entirely new type of animated couple, one that I personally love. And this episode just highlights everything that's great about their relationship. And that's something worth noting about all of this. Sure, we're outlining parts of the series that felt incomplete or weird little undeveloped plots that could have been cut, but overall, this season was still executed incredibly well. And as we'll talk about at the end, the cut to 11 minutes was ultimately the best decision. Then there's the episode Skate Dad, and I'm going to use this episode to outline the opening segments, because they're kind of all over the place. Sometimes they're complete one-offs, sometimes they introduce the episode, but it's always kind of different, and sometimes I wonder if these opening segments were parts of other plot lines or other jokes they couldn't fit into whole episodes, which isn't bad by any means, and it still works as like one-off funny openings. It's just a little inconsistent, which to me feels like a byproduct of having to shuffle around the episode times and cut plots down. Also, another thing specific to this episode that I feel happens sometimes is that the episodes just end a little too abruptly for my taste. Although, to be fair, I've always been pretty sensitive to this. I felt the same about certain episodes of Gumball, which I felt just ended a little too abruptly or randomly. But this is just a byproduct of having to fit a story into 11 minutes. Sometimes you don't get the time that you need to have have that perfect ending. And in the case of Close Enough, I can see them trying to figure out where to end the episode after having to cut so much of it down. In the episode 100% No Stress Day, which was the first episode of the show to drop, my biggest qualm is with the stripper clown plotline, which to me completely came out of left field and felt extremely random, which at first I just took as why it was funny. Alex randomly has beef with stripper clowns of all people, although this is yet another situation where the trailer makes me wonder. Because in the trailer there is a scene of all the stripper clowns in a meeting, so I feel like there was definitely more to this plotline than what we got. Perhaps there was a bit more of a setup or a more complicated resolution to these bizarre and admittedly hilarious antagonists, but honestly, no matter what they had in store for the stripper clowns, their presence at all was always going to be crazy, and I still think they're hilarious. The episode Prank War actually does a really good job of combining all the plots together. The storyline of Josh's prank war, intervening with Bridget and Emily's plot of being attacked in the street, and even Alex babysitting Candace, using the prank war to get candy, causing her to go crazy. This, in my opinion, is Close Enough at its finest. All of the plot lines interweaving together and making sense, leading to a sort of cause and effect delivery of the episode's ideas. Plus, it's just really funny. Then there's the episode Cool Moms, and this is another example of the A and B plots sort of clashing in a weird way. I think the A plot was executed perfectly, with Emily trying to impress the other cool moms at the expense of Candace's happiness, but I can't help but feel like the road trip B plot was a bit rushed. Look, I don't want to sound like some stuck-up cartoon reviewer, okay? Who am I to say anything feels rushed? It's all subjective, but I just can't help but watch this episode and feel like they were meant to show more here, especially with how crazy this plotline got. Like, a road trip turning to dinosaurs coming to life and being sexist, then the ending of them entering a nudist colony. Like, it all works as a crazy plotline, but I can't help but feel like, especially with the information I learned from the AMA, that this was edited down in some way. And as I'll talk about later, I think that's one of the problems that came with cutting down the episodes, but also having the episodes be about crazy high concept, close enough regular show type things. The next two episodes were about Tudor and Golden Gamer were pretty much perfect. I couldn't sense any pacing issues or any weird A-B plot problems, and I have a good feeling that this is what season 2 is going to be like mostly. The episode's so long, boys. I know I keep saying this, but this is probably my favorite episode of the season, or at least my favorite intro. My only problem is the beginning was really funny, but I feel like they just shoehorned that clip from the trailer into the show. And shoehorned is a harsh word. It doesn't feel crammed in any way, and it definitely works with the plot. But I feel like they just really liked this clip and they wanted to find any way to put it in the show. And honestly, it fit really well here. Clap Like This is another great example of how nothing feels left out, but pacing-wise, things move just a little too fast. Specifically, Bridget's plotline of getting a job to the mannequins becoming real. And this is just a byproduct of what happens when you take Close Enough's things go from mundane to crazy format and then trim it down. The plots are never bad or confusing, but they always ramp up super fast. That was something I noticed in regular show. Like I keep saying, it's just a restraint of the 11-minute time span. The episode First Date is pretty much great up until the end, ending incredibly abruptly. Like, do Alex and Bridget make up? Are they gonna date again? It ends on a masturbation joke. Honestly, out of all of the episodes, I know there is content that has been cut here. At least some clarification of what's really going on. And it's sad too, because seeing Alex and Bridget interact like this, especially the nature of their relationship, is just really interesting. Having a divorced couple hang out is pretty unique for an adult sitcom. And the fact that they live together too on top of that is just hilarious. So yeah, I want to see more of this, and I'm sad it ended a little abruptly. Whatever they cut from this episode, I'm gonna find it. Mark my words. This isn't a threat by any means. Maybe I'll just buy it or something, but I want to see it. Snailing It is yet another example of what I thought was a B plot kind of being cut down. The snail plotline is really weird and really interesting. It's impossible to describe. Like, she gets a hat that lets her work faster, but it makes her older. I don't know. You just have to watch it. But by proxy, that complicated plot kind of cuts Josh's moments down. This is yet another episode that doesn't have much of a B plot, just scenes that feel like they could have been the B plot, but were cut down just to the parts that tie in with the main plot. Like, I can't help but feel like Randy and Josh were meant to have more of a moment this episode, but instead we just get 2 clips of their conversation that lead into Emily's main problem. Again, I don't want to seem nitpicky here, but the whole point of this video is trying to figure out what content was cut from the show, and this definitely feels like content that was cut. And finally, we have the season finale, the craziest episode by far in my opinion, The Canine Guy. This episode is special because it's the only 24-minute long episode, a remnant of the original plan for the series. So when I originally saw it, I was like, like, oh, this episode's 24 minutes. Oh, this is gonna be important. But it wasn't anything special. I'm sure it was weird and complicated, but the runtime was more confusing and inconsistent than it was necessary. However, with this 24-minute runtime, we were really allowed to see what this original version of Close Enough was meant to look like. And honestly, it was pretty great. The longer runtime allowed all the plots to play out in depth, to happen naturally and organically. There was no ambiguous feeling of missing parts or things being cut down. And this is perfectly represented by the beginning of the episode. The medieval times gag allowing to play out as long as it needed to. I felt like if they were cutting this to 11 minutes, this part definitely would have been cut, at least a little bit. But instead, we were allowed to see it happen naturally, and it was really funny. This episode also showcased more of Emily and Bridget writing and performing songs together. In fact, that's the whole purpose of this episode, is they're trying to write a song. And I feel like this is definitely something that was meant to be carried out more, but really wasn't. It definitely popped up a few times before in the series, but not enough to really solidify that this was a thing to me. And this is just me being honest as a viewer. I'm not trying to be critical. I watched this last episode going, oh, they make music together, right? Yeah, don't they? Wait. But still, they went all out for this plot, getting Weird Al to cameo, which is as amazing as it is confusing. They also have Post Malone in here, but he doesn't say anything. And my theory is that maybe they wanted to get Post Malone, but he didn't, or he couldn't. I don't know. It aged well. But this episode is more than anything else, just longer. It has more time to set up the whole medieval times plot of Alex and Josh growing apart, and then lead into a talking dog plot, something that's so disconnected, but ultimately works because they're able to do it right with enough pacing and timing. Like Dog Boy has a Jim Carrey backstory too. That's just some weird tiny detail that I feel like would have ended up getting cut or being more confusing if they had to cram this into 11 minutes. It all works because they have more time to make it work. The whole episode is a roller coaster though. The reveal of Dogman's original owner, wanting to make him for talking animal movies, it's an incredible twist. And it ends on being one of the most entertaining episodes of the season. I was still a little disappointed in the sense that this just didn't feel like a season finale, but Close Enough, at least right now, is very much a one-off show, so that's not too surprising. As for why this was a 22-minute segment, as opposed to being cut down into an 11-minute one, my theory is that it was just too complicated to cut down. And it was the last episode, so it's like, oh yeah, just make the last episode 22 minutes. It's like the grand finale. It's a little confusing, but ultimately it works. Also, it has Weird Al in it, which just is awesome. How do you cut Weird Al? You can't. That's a sin. And that being said, that is season 1 of Close Enough. So to conclude, overall, what are our thoughts here? Well, the season is still incredibly entertaining, and I would recommend it to anybody. Cutting it from 22 minutes to 11 minutes led to it being just a little bit rough around the edges. Like, there's moments where I'm like, why did it just cut to black? They're only 11-minute segments, and it's not even airing on TV. Little bits like that, a byproduct of its crazy development, are ultimately just little remnants that likely won't be in season 2. You kind of have to give Close Enough the benefit of the doubt a little bit, because it was shuffled around a lot. This thing was meant to be on a TBS block with Louis C.K. It's gonna be a little bumpy. It's been through some stuff. And although some of these episodes feel like they have parts that are missing or a bit rushed, I think that ultimately changing it from 22 to 11 minutes was the right move. Not only would most of these plots not be enough to last 22 minutes, at least not in an interesting way, the fast-paced nature really does work in Close Enough's favor, with the craziness ramping up quickly, keeping the viewer on the edge of their seat. I mean, I truly don't know what's gonna happen from 1 minute to the next in the show, and I think that's pretty awesome. Still, like the Garfield conspiracy subplot, I feel like there's a lot of lost media that is missing from Close Enough, whether it be just scripted content or even storyboarded or animated scenes, and I hope that one day we get to see that footage in all of its glory. In the meantime, we have a whole other season on the way, so if you're a fan of Close Enough, the future is bright. And as always, I want to know what you guys think about all of this. Do you think these episodes were cut down or rushed? Did you not even notice? Let us know in those comments down below, tweet to us Roundtable Vids, or me at @RetroNemo. If you want to consider helping out the Roundtable, you can support us on Patreon and get exclusive access to scripts and avatars, or become a member of the channel. As always guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the Roundtable for more incredible cartoon content. As always guys, I'm Nemo, this is a Close Enough video, and I will see you next time. Peace.